And now we're going to be power scaling Season 3 Nick. Season 2 and Season 1 Nick have been power scaled, now it's time for Season 3. Where would Season 3 Nick power scale? Well, first, Season 3 Nick is post. Well, the first feat for Season 3 Nick would be his feat against Herobrine. Herobrine took over the Psycho's body, and this version of Herobrine was stated to be the strongest version that he has ever been and ever will be. And Nick was keeping up with him in his Source Dragon form, and they were even evenly matched before Herobrine used hacks to out-hacks him. If it wasn't for that, I'm pretty sure Nick would have won. So yeah, So no hacks, Nick probably outmatches Herobrine Death Cycle, and Herobrine Death Cycle still wasn't even able to use Death Cycle's true power because Death Cycle was fighting back. So yeah. Then we have Nick battle against King Orange, who was a being capable of destroying all of reality using his power box, affecting their entire creation and what was even outside of it. And all the power of his power box was literally hitting Nick in his base form, and Nick's body was tearing apart, but Nick still survived, which puts Nick's base power capable of surviving anything that could be destroyed. That includes Nether Space, which is an infinite-sized place, but we'll get into that more later. Nick surviving that puts his base durability at way above anything we've ever seen. They only beat King Orange because of emotional connection, because he realized what he was doing was wrong. Without that, I'm pretty sure they would have lost 0 difficulty. He was just too strong. Now we have the Great War arc. I didn't go over everything about that arc, but now I'll go over the important things. Nick scaling in that arc. First of all, Nick, after battling Bruce and being sent to Nether Space, we finally got this is the complete definition and explanation of Nether Space. Nether Space is a place that exists outside of the existence, or as you can call it, creation, that, is infinite in size. So the only way for Nick to get out of here is to affect it. And the only way to affect something to affect something or destroy something that its size is infinite, you need to be extraversal level. That is the definition I was given by Oscar. Which means, when he was posting a video when we were doing our debate, which he said that anyone that can affect, destroy, or create something that size is infinity is extraversal. His words exactly. A heavily exhausted Nick after his battle with Bruce. By the way, Source Dragon form before Nick achieved true potential form was literally extremely draining, and this was extremely draining. And Nick was using it multiple times throughout this entire war just to survive. So Nick was drained out. And from the Nick wiki, this drained out true Source Dragon Nick is equal to full power, completely fresh base Nick. You wanna know what this version of Nick does? Source Dragon Nick powers up into this heavily exhausted Source Dragon form, which is able to start affecting this infinite space by just existing. Then when he screams, he's able to create a massive explosion of energy that's able to make a portal out of there. The portal is literally a crack inside of the Nether Space, and Nick flies out of it. And as the Nether Space is an infinite space of time, and if you're able to affect something that size is infinite, you are extraversal. Nick in that form is extraversal. Which means that base Nick, fully fresh and full power, is extraversal. Then Nick immediately after that fights against Saitama to reinforce this extraversal claim. He fights against a guy named Saitama, He fights against Saitama. This version of Saitama just is comparable to Dark God, one of the four primordial evils. Dark God is capable, it created the endless river, which is a river that is infinite in size. If you're able to create something that's infinite, you're extraversal, right? So this puts Dark God extraversal, and as Saitama is equal to this, and heavily exhausted Nick is above Saitama, puts base Nick in this extraversal layer even more clearer. So now let's go over more Nick feats. Nick is capable. When Nick and Red King had their next rematch, where Red King used his children and Nick just teared through all of his 3-year-old kids by ripping them in half, you know, average casual Nick stuff. Red King had been stated to be stronger than to be massively stronger than Dark God. Dark God, who is an extraversal level opponent, Red King is infinite times stronger than him, stated by the Nick Wiki, which means that Red King is extraversal plus. Nick in his Source Dragon form was taking him down with no difficulty, which, yeah. Sorry about that. Little problem with miking. Okay, back to the video. So yeah, Nick was able to was literally completely destroying Red King in Search Dragon form, which makes sense because all of Nick's forms are infinite times stronger than the last. So base Nick, Angel V4 Nick should be extraversal plus. Harbinger of Chaos Nick should be extraversal plus plus, and Source Dragon Nick should be extraversal plus 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 if we use the information. Wait, sorry, I made an iffy baddie. I made a bad one there. Harbinger of Angel V4 is not an infinite times increase. It is not an actual infinite times increase. Sorry, I made a bad one there. So the actual ranking is Harbinger of Chaos is extraversal plus, because Angel V4 is actually a 2 times increase, not an infinite times increase. So okay, so Harbinger of Chaos is extraversal plus. Source Dragon form is extraversal plus plus, and finally, True Potential form is extraversal plus plus plus. Three pluses. Which means that Source Dragon Nick is literally infinite times stronger than Red King, so it's obvious that you'd be kicking this guy up with no diff. But then Red King gets out of all of his children, to jump Nick, and Nick literally tears through them with no diff, before Red King escapes using his children as a cloak. So then Nick has to fight against Thunderfang, who shoots blasts, which are literally moving faster than the concept of speed, and Nick is easily dodging them, you know, the average Nick stuff. Nick also uses a lot of Chaos Blasts in his fight against Thunderfang, but ultimately needs the help of all of his friends to beat him. So yeah. So, and also, Baby was also, for durability, we all know about Nick and Baby being comparable, and Baby taking that bomb, you know, that made that boundless crater. Nick being comparable to Baby means that Nick can also tank that. And in terms of speed, Nick's best speed is that he's comparable to Post Awakening speed, who's Quick Zone. We already know about that stuff. So with all of this, a full Power Nick by the end of season 3 is extraversal plus 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 with irrelevant speed, or even higher than that. with the concept of speed no longer even being a faction in his speed level anymore, and with boundless durability. Well, not boundless, as Baby still took a lot of damage from the explosion. He didn't really tank it, but somewhere near that level. So yeah, that's Nick's power. Hope you like it.